Well, hello everybody. On this latest episode of the Expect Performance podcast, I've got Ros Toerien. Roslynne is a mother of three. She's an educator by profession, and she is also the co-founder of the Learn Project. The Learn Project stands for Let's Educate a Rainbow Nation, and since its founding in 2012, they've installed over 24 libraries in underprivileged schools, as well as well over 85,000 books. What a difference 85,000 books can make. The ripple effect on something like that with the young children of South Africa is truly tremendous. Especially when you consider the fact that in 2022, there were 883 less schools in South Africa compared to 2017. So we lost 883 schools over that 5-year period. So the work she's doing is absolutely tremendous. Roslynne is also an author. She's a published author of 2 children's books, both of which my son has read, Under the Baobab Tree and The Rumbling Rhino. She's got 2 new books coming out as well, which she alludes to, but it's a big secret, so we've got some clues as to what the books are about, but you'll have to sit tight and wait for them to hit the shelves in the near future. Finally, a last takeaway from me, what I really enjoyed about this episode, is to chat to somebody who decided to take action. It is so easy to be negative in this country at the moment, and we are all well aware of the challenges that we face. But Roslynne, together with her team at Project Learn, have decided to do something about it. The more people we have in our society that are willing to contribute of their time and their means and their intellectual property to uplift South African society as a whole, then the better for us all. As always, like, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Ros, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Only a pleasure. Welcome to the Expect Performance podcast. Absolute pleasure to have you. Ros, so you've got an interesting story. I was looking at it this week, and first of all, you're an author. You've got 2 published books, one that I read to my little boy last night, and you've got such wonderful work that you're doing in the community. Can you start by telling me how you got to that place? What's happened? Give me some context for your life.
So I think I've always dreamed of being a teacher since a little girl. I think I always knew that that's what I was called into and that's what I wanted to be. So it was kind of an easy choice for me in choosing subjects, grade 10, going through matric, and then going instantly into a Bachelor of Education. I studied through UNISA, so it allowed me the flexibility. I was a dancer, so I could dance and I could study part-time, and I was also an intern, a teacher intern, so I gained experience in the classroom teaching while studying and still fulfilling my passion of dancing. Yeah. So it's something that I've always loved and I've always wanted to do, and then I went straight into a teaching career at Treetops at a preschool.
Very cool. Where's Treetops?
Treetops is in Musgrave. It's actually one of the longest standing preschools in KZN.
Serious?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should send our boy there. Yeah.
So that was the start, and I started off teaching 4 to 5-year-olds, which I never thought would be my beginning. I always saw myself more in foundation phase, grade 1, 2, but I'm so glad that I was challenged and encouraged to do that, because the principal at the time said to me, it's so important to know where children are coming from, and we'd love to place you in grade R, but for you to see where they're coming from in their development is so important. So I really think that was a head start in my career, because I gained experience with an age group that I never saw myself teaching, but having studied towards that, I was well prepared, and I absolutely loved it. Also prepared me for motherhood, I think.
Yeah.
Have loads of really hilarious stories of my time teaching that age group. And then I moved into grade R, and I headed up the grade R Treetops for a number of years. And then in between all of that, I had my daughter, and then my son, my middle boy. And then when I had my 3rd child, I had to start making some decisions, because obviously being a mom It was a full-time job with young children, still loving my teaching. But I moved from a full-time position in the classroom to some locum teaching in between having children, where I taught different age groups, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. And then I was asked to head up the drama, dance, music division at Treetops, which I did for a number of years, which was amazing. That was such fun. And yeah, I got to explore the dramatic arts side of teaching, which I loved. And it was also part-time, so I could teach part-time and fulfill my goals with the Learn project, which I had started pretty early on in my teaching career in 2012.
So Ros, tell me about the Learn project. That sounds interesting.
So Learn started, as I said, I stopped teaching for a while when I had my children of my own, and I really missed being in the classroom. So I volunteered my time with another NGO, and we would go into the community of Baobab and assist teachers and children. So that was really, really special, and I think my eyes were really opened into the vast difference that we have in our country of disadvantaged schools and other schools. So that was really an eye-opener, and I felt like I was bringing hope in when I was going there for the period of time that I was assisting. I was mentoring grade R teachers, and then I would leave and I felt like I was pulling that hope away. And I am a very sensitive person, so for me it was just, I felt like surely there's more. Like I just felt like there was more that I could do to make a sustainable, lasting difference. And I also knew deeper than my heart that if this is something I was thinking of, surely there were other people that also wanted to make a difference, but they just didn't know where to begin.
Yeah, and on your website there's a quote there that says somebody should do something about this.
Yes.
But then I realized I was somebody,
yes,
or something like
Lily
that.
Tomlin, she says, so I thought somebody should do something about that, but then I realized I am somebody.
Yeah.
So
you were that somebody.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then what happened next?
So from that, I suppose it was an idea, it was a seed, and that idea just didn't leave me. And I think that's something I've learned in life. When something sits in you and you've got that idea, but it just doesn't go, and you can't stop thinking about it, and it's like a burning flame that just wants to come alight, don't ignore that. And
That's how I felt about the podcast, actually.
wow.
Yeah. So that's very cool. I can relate.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that was that. It was just an idea, really. And I thought, well, I actually don't even know where to begin, but I know I want to make a difference. I know I want to make a difference in education because I feel that's where I'm called into, but I just don't know where to start. And I suppose there's no better time than the now, like living in the now, in the moment, and not ignoring that sits within you.
That gut feeling.
That gut feeling, yeah. So there are endless stories and how Learn came about and how it evolved. There's no doubt that it's a project that was just meant to be, and I really feel like God's guided me every step of the way with it. Driving out of this community, I just said, like, surely there's more. What can I do? I'm ready to be used. And
Yes.
I just put it out there, and I didn't know what the next step was or how I was going to do it. But I must admit, I wasn't scared. I was there was an excitement, and then I knew, like, when an excitement overrides fear, you can accomplish
you're onto
it.
something.
You're onto something.
Yeah.
And it was then that I just felt you need to start libraries in disadvantaged schools. And I doubted. I think the first thing I did was doubt. And so many people I speak to and work with, doubt is often that first thought that comes to your mind. And it can so quickly override what's meant to be if you let it take hold. So I've been very conscious in following through with what that gut feeling is and pursuing it and just praying about it and not letting negativity or doubt hold you back, because if I hadn't started the Learn project, I often think like, wow, so many doors have opened, not just for myself, but for so many other people. And if I hadn't listened to that gut feeling, what would I be doing today, and
I think that's
what would have happened?
Yeah, I think that's an important message, for people who are wanting to embark on something new, a passion project that they've always wanted to but never have followed through on it because of that self-doubt. And I think the first step is always to take action irrespective. So you almost want to take action before you can even allow that self-doubt
Yes.
to just do something.
Just do
you
something.
know? Just do something, get the ball rolling. It's better than nothing.
Yes.
With my podcast, it started with literally going onto Take-A-Lot and just doing my research and then just buying whatever equipment I could that was on special on Take-A-Lot.
Wow.
Because I knew that, okay, now I'm going to have these mics delivered and this
Yes.
audio face and whatever. I'm going to sit with this and I'm going to stare at this every day, and it's going to prompt me into action.
Yes.
To take that first step.
Yes.
And also I think it's important to have people to encourage you, you know, in your close circle, to say, Ros, don't let that self-doubt creep in. Clinton, do that podcast.
Yeah.
You know, you've been wanting to do this for so long. Don't worry, just get going, you know.
Another
so I think
thing
it's crucial.
Definitely, and not keeping things to yourself. You know, so often if you let an idea just sit in your head, the mind is a very powerful thing, and that negativity and the doubt and second questioning and doubting can often hold you back from the next door that's about to open for you, and not just for you, but for other people. So with Learn, we always say, there's a quote that I had, and it was, take hold of the key and be an opener of doors. And that key is the gifts that God's given you to use, not just for yourself, but for other people too. And doors open, but then it's not just going through that door alone. It's sharing your knowledge, sharing what you're learning, sharing what you're doing with others, and that's when big difference can happen.
Yeah, I love that, because it removes the importance of the individual. So not only is it you doing something that you feel passionate about, but by you not taking action, you're also depriving your extended circle and the people who will potentially be influenced positively by your actions.
Yeah.
You're depriving them of that opportunity by you not taking action.
Yes.
And with the podcast, I might be depriving somebody of knowledge that they might not have had they not listened to whatever episode.
Yeah.
You know, so I love that. It's very like open-minded and inclusive.
Yeah.
And now you fast forward, I mean, Learn's donated over 85,000 books, 24 school libraries, placed 339 book corners.
Yeah.
Did you ever imagine that was going to happen when you started?
I knew that I believed in a God of the impossible, and one thing that I knew God had promised me was that you are not ill-equipped, because I equip everybody with the skills needed when you're called.
Yeah.
So that gave me the courage and the boldness to go, okay, I'm going to step forward in faith, and I'm just going to go with this. I'm going to start where I am, which was my tandem garage. It was with friends saying, if you've got any children's books, please drop them off with me, or I'll collect them.
Yo.
And it was literally sitting at night, sharpening pencils that were donated and paging through books and making sure that the content was right for a South African child, using my knowledge of my teaching career and my experience in what children are actually interested in to make sure that the right content was going to go into the schools that was relevant to the life world of a South African child, knowing that these were children from disadvantaged communities. That was kind of the start, but then sharing the idea with others. And through sharing of what was on my heart and this crazy idea in my head, which was seemingly so impossible and so far-fetched, that was when I met a friend of my mom's, who's actually a lifetime family friend. And Lucy had said, well, I went to the Transkei, and I walked into a classroom on a tour of one of the schools, and the children were sharing pencils between classrooms. And it's been on my mind and my heart that I want to do something to help change education. And so we got chatting, and that's how Learn started, just through a coffee, sitting together and dreaming big. So that's where Learn started. And 12 years later, we have impacted a lot of children, a lot of teachers. But one thing that's always been so important to us is sustainability and long-term impact. I think that number of books is actually so much more than the 85,000 that's on our website. It's far more than that, but those are the books that are being covered in plastic, accessioned into registered, catalogued, processed, and are in libraries that are Learn libraries. We have so many books that we've just donated and passed on and paid it forward with. But those are books that are allocated to school libraries, and then learning along the way and humbling yourself and learning hard lessons and seeing what works and what doesn't work with that long-term vision. As long as you've got a vision, you write it down and you keep going towards that.
Yes.
And you'll see, like with us in the beginning, we also collected pre-loved stationery and school shoes. But then it got to a point where anyone can collect stationery and school shoes, and that's amazing. And, you know, if anyone says we've got that, I'll still take it in and I'll pass it on. But sitting at night sharpening pencils was taking up time where I knew I had the skills needed to make this Learn project work, to take it to the next level, and that was going to require focus and streamlining it into focusing on books and literacy.
Okay. I absolutely love that. And my perception of the work that you've been doing so far in the Learn project and also with your books is you've done it with Africa in mind.
Yeah.
The context of the diversity that we have here. There's lots of good things that come with diversity, but there's also lots of challenges, different backgrounds, different cultures, different languages.
Yeah.
So going into the schools that the Learn project aims to go into, how do you guys combat and transition those kids successfully from literacy and then into what they would learn in, which is English?
So I think it's a holistic approach. I think it's something that we have grown and developed through the years. Learn stands for Let's Educate a Rainbow Nation, and that's our mission, is putting a book into the child of children today so that they can reach their full potential. And in reaching the schools that we go into, it's spending time with the teachers, getting to know and form relationships. And I think any change in society is going to take collaboration. So that's a key word for us. And our word going into this year is one of our quotes. Collaboration is key as we unlock minds. Our future leaders are on the rise. So that's what is actually going into our newsletter. That's going out about collaborating and partnering with corporates, with general people. I mean, the Learn project is a community-based project. We honestly couldn't do it without volunteers, and that we've got volunteers that are still in school and they've got community hours with the President's Awards. So they spend time covering books for us, helping us set up libraries. We've got amazing volunteers that attend our book covering parties, and we make it fun. And I think that's the main thing, is making it fun with that goal of, okay, what is our goal? Who is our reach? And then it's bridging that gap. I'm fiercely protective over that, in that it's not just a handout, it's an active process of giving from the heart and involving our kids in that process. I've got 3 children of my own, and it's been so important to me and to our family to include our children in the process of, you know, choosing books, donating their books off their shelf, and coming with to book launches and to library launches to see, oh, that's where my book went. We always document all our Learn journeys and transformations in our schools, and use photos and video summaries of the day to highlight, okay, this is where your donation went. Because many people have the time, but they don't have the resources or the funding, so they'll be offering time. Other people have the funding and the resources, yet they don't have the time to go actually attend a library launch. So that's important for us. And just spending time with the children in these communities, it's just one of the highlights of my day, going into a school, spending time with them, listening to their stories, and listening to their dreams. And we've had so many stories of success. You know, in the beginning, I could tangibly feel the difference we were making. I also had the vision because I had started it, but I could see in the learners the joy when a book entered their classroom with their very first book corner in foundation phase, or entering a library for the first time, and that literal tangible joy that you can experience firsthand from a teacher and a child, learning the hard way, and then changing and evolving and refining. We now run teacher training courses for teachers. So every teacher in the school gets trained on our Welcome to the Library course. So we have a library training course. We've devised our own resources and materials that are proudly South African. So in the beginning, I was like, well, we have to have an alphabet chart in a classroom in foundation phase, being a teacher myself, and then just on the lookout for proudly South African alphabet charts, and I couldn't really find much. And so we came up with our own alphabet chart that was designed for our Learn libraries, that N is Nelson Mandela. It's conversation starters, T is for Table Mountain. So it's things that children can relate to and adults can have a conversation about, build on their vocabulary. So we're trying to create language-rich environments. And, we hear so much negative every day. And we can drown in that, or we can choose to rise above it, and we can be the change we want to see in the world. And for us with the Learn Project, we hope to provide that opportunity for people to get involved, to either give of their time, their books, their resources, their finances. We are BBE level 1 now, and we can offer Section 18A certificates, so we partner with corporates. And there's so many people that want to be part of a change for good, and they want to uplift education. They just don't know where to begin. So we hope to be that platform or the springboard that they can invest their time in and feel like, wow, I've made a difference and been part of something bigger.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think everybody in South Africa realizes the importance of education. It really is the foundation of what's going to be our future in the next 20, 35 years,
We always say this is our next generation. We really have to pour into their lives, be it time, be it mentorship, be it, there's a fatherless generation coming up, and just seeing the importance of investing time wisely, We can get sucked into, I do it myself, scrolling on my phone, and the next minute I'm like, you're an hour in and you're like, oh, I haven't had time to do X, Y, and Z. So it's just trying to be intentional about our time and providing that space where we have book covering parties, or we invite people to come and help us set up a library, help us prepare books. So we're providing opportunity for people to do that. And then seeing the difference tangibly now, 12 years later. My favorite story is a boy in Sika, and he matriculated 3 years ago. He's in his 3rd year of med school now.
Wow.
And he was part of our very first Learn Library at Ekuteleni Primary. He could not read a word of English when he joined in grade 5. He was new to the school. Grade 5. He couldn't read a word of English. He joined the reading club and wanted to join our quiz team. And I think where many teachers might have said, what, my boy, come and read in the library, but you need to learn, you need to know how to read before you can join our quiz team. We have an incredible mentor, Wiseman, from the Learn Project, who's our ambassador, and he reads and teaches children to read in the communities. And he took him under his wing and he said, if this is what you want, I'm going to give you my time, but we're going to read on Saturdays and we're going to read before school and after school. And this little boy just blossomed, ended up being one of our top performing learners in grade 7 with the literacy quiz. They won the quiz that year and went on to high school, into the neighboring high school. And at the end of his matriculated with 7 distinctions. And his story is just something that really inspires me, and it's the why behind the work, and that's the heartbeat. And now we finally have, this
almost like
is
a finished
real.
product.
This is a finished product.
This is somebody who's come through the whole process.
Living his dream. And he always says, like, he attributes it to that first book he ever held in the library. He still remembers the title of the book. And just, I still mentor him today, and he's in 3rd year now, and he's studying to be a doctor. And he said when he was in the reading club, he used to say to his friends, one day, this aeroplane in this book, I'm going to go on an aeroplane and I'm going to go and study to be a doctor. And he said he used to get laughed at, and everyone was like, no, a boy from this area is never going to go on an aeroplane. And off he went, and he first went to UCT, he got into chemical engineering, and then he got offered a space in med school in KZN. So he came back home, and he's always wanted to be a doctor and fulfilling a lifetime dream, and going to change the whole path of his family and community's future.
Exactly. And then other people's lives that come into contact with him.
Yeah, and just inspiring. He went back to the school. I took him back to his primary school, and he went back to his maths classroom and sat at the same desk and spoke to the grade 7s just to share hope. As I said, we can drown in the negative and all the hard stories, but there are amazing stories out there. We just need to hear them more.
Yeah, and I think they're amazing stories because of people who want to take action and do take action. There's lots of people that want to take action in theory but never do. You've identified something that you're passionate about, and then you actually did take action, and together with your team,
definitely collectively.
That as a team, that this young man is going to end up being a doctor.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's many other stories that are
Many other
just
stories
that are
now.
like his as well.
Yeah. In his actual same year, two of the boys, him and a friend who was also part of the reading club, both made it to UCT for chemical engineering, and then both got accepted into med school and are both studying to be doctors now. So it's just incredible that these are stories that are right here in KZN.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
love that. There are these stories around, but I think we've got to do our utmost to be to broadcast them to people, to learn more about it, people to get involved. For example, I wouldn't have found out about you had I not gone to, where did we go? We went to Humble.
Yeah.
And then your books were in Humble, which we'll get to your books just now. But then from there, I started to read about the author, and then I got into the Learn project, and I was like, wow, this is really, really cool stuff.
Thank you.
And we really need to broadcast these stories and to collaborate, to share your story, and then, you will no doubt share other people's stories. So tell me, how does it work? How does a school get a Learn library?
We have an application process now, and we've really refined this process because it's definitely not a handout. It's an active involvement and a partnership between the school and the Learn project. We also get beneficiary and donor schools to collaborate, and that's part of my bigger vision, and I'm hoping to really, really refine that and get more donor schools on board with partnering with the beneficiary school, because that's the active part of relationship and developing relationship, where learners actually get to actively see and meet friends and partner. And so that's what we've started doing, and it's been a great success. We've got 24 beneficiary schools, soon to be 25. We're launching a library on Valentine's Day, which is International Book Giving Day. So that's
cool.
coming up, very exciting.
Where's that launch?
That's going to be at Sagedi Primary, and it's up at Tonga, but it's about an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours away, in the middle of, very, very rural area, but absolutely beautiful, and the most incredible principal. It's a very small school, but we're really excited about that. We've done all the work, we've transformed the room, so the makeover's already happened, we've delivered all the books, and we'll be going in there in a week's time to do the actual transformation process of setting up and the fun part of decorating. And then on Wednesday, on the 14th, we'll be doing a big celebration. We always make a big thing out of our launches. So how a school would apply was on our website now. We have an application form.
Okay.
Just important questions about the history of the school, who the principal is, are there any committees in your school, do you have a room that's existing with structure within the school that could be transformed into a library, because we have to have an existing structure that we can work with. It doesn't matter how run down it is or how damaged the room is. That actually excites me even more. We've had big challenges where there's been no floor or the whole roof has collapsed, and we've got an incredible team in partnership with a building company that helps us. And I think out of all these floods that we've had, not one of our libraries has had a water damage. So given the starting point that you can see on our website and the end results, that really makes me happy and just at peace to know like we are making a difference. And there is a standard that we try and uphold of excellence, because we want this library not just to be, they're secondhand books that are hand-me-downs and there's pages missing and there's writing in the books and it's about another country. I mean, you would have that in your reference section or in your non-fiction section, but to have too many books of one type. So we try and balance it out, and to put a lot of South African books within the library, local authors, fiction, non-fiction for our senior primary libraries, and then obviously a mixed selection which is age appropriate for foundation phase and a book corner. So schools apply, they fill in the form, and that's it. When lots of schools, I think every week I'm getting WhatsApp messages, emails, please can you help our school with a library. It really shows when a principal or a teacher takes the initiative and the time to fill in the form, to submit photos. And you can see I look for passion over perfect. So for us, it's a teacher with a heart. We've just launched the most amazing library at Durban South Girls School, and that's in Clarewood. And that was a teacher who took the initiative to send us a message, reach out, say what can she do to make a difference in her school. She's passionate about books and literacy. She's willing to do anything to help them get a library. And that's actually one of the most beautiful libraries now, all geared for all girls. And
Wonderful.
yeah, so.
Wonderful. Speaking of authors, you're an author too. You've
I
got
am.
2 books.
Yes.
The Rumbling Rhino and Under the Baobab Tree. Tell me about that process.
I think that process, it was something that was always within me, that I've always loved books, I've always loved writing, I've always loved children, and it's something that seemed to naturally transpire. Having children of my own, I'm very intentional about bedtime stories and reading, trying to read every day. We don't always get it right. But yeah, my children do love to read, and my youngest is now 7, so when the Baobab and the Rumbling Rhino came out, he was 5 when I was finishing them off. And yeah, every night it's story time, and he would start saying, "Oh, Mom, not a book off the shelf. I want a made-up story tonight." So we would start creating these stories together. And then it was just through that when he was starting to fall asleep, I'd journal notes on my phone. And I'm a big advocate of journaling and writing down your thoughts, because they can slip away from you so quickly and easily when we get distracted by life and everything that pulls us in a million directions. So just jotting down those ideas, those thoughts, and that's how those books came about. And then I quickly realized that I had a definite style of writing, which I was still getting to know myself. And it was definitely rhyme-based. It was definitely purpose-based. It was proudly South African, and I was very, very intentional about that, because having been in the school environment, in a privileged school and a disadvantaged school, I just knew that was something that we needed more on our shelves, more of, and just creating awareness of the beautiful landscape that we have here in South Africa, and then doing it through a child-friendly book, incorporating facts, because many teachers would say, the children don't really want to take home a non-fiction book. They're going straight for the fiction books, which is great. They're reading, but we also want them learning some information that's not just imaginary stories. So that was where I thought, well, imagine if I could merge a fiction and a non-fiction book and try and create everything in one. So for story time and bedtime for families, we've got conversation starters at the back of the book where there's did you know facts.
Yes, I noticed that.
Children love asking questions and why, and there's a million questions that they ask us, and they just love soaking up information. And I think children are so much more intelligent than we give them credit for, and we can extend them so much more just through conversation, just through stories and books and building on their vocabulary. So that's where those books started.
Yeah, I love how there's this pride in local. Local is lekker.
It is.
And you're encouraging kids to learn about their own country first. So much of our time and energy is invested in learning about other people's countries.
Yes.
The Western world and Hollywood and cartoons and movies and all of that. And often our own country comes second, and seems like you've made a deliberate effort to place that first.
Yeah.
So that's certainly what I got from Under the Baobab Tree.
Thank you so much for the feedback.
Yeah. So tell me about Under the Baobab Tree specifically. What was the inspiration behind that book? Why a baobab tree? Why did you go that kind of route?
So first and foremost, very evident, I think, just in our conversation, I'm so proudly South African, and
You wouldn't say that.
I just love our country, and so that came from, I love travel, I love traveling, I love exploring, I love nature, I love being in wide open spaces, and it came from a trip to the Victoria Falls and going on just an adventure and coming across this magnificent baobab tree and standing under the baobab tree to take photos to have, wow, I was actually here. And the ants, it's actually hilarious. The video footage I have of that, where you're trying to get photos taken and you're literally tap dancing under your feet because these ants were just everywhere. At the time, I didn't think, wow, I'm going to write a book on this. It obviously was in my memory bank, and that experience just held firm with me. And and then just a love for baobab trees. I mean, I don't know if you know, but we have got baobab trees in Durban, yeah.
There's one in Botanical Gardens.
There
Botanic
is one.
Gardens, yeah.
There's one at Musgrave Centre,
Mm-hmm.
a very big one. That was one of the first trees ever planted there when that used to be a house. So when I taught at
Wow.
Treetops, it was an outing. We'd take our kids to go and look at this baobab tree. And DHS school has a very big baobab tree on their field.
Sure.
So yeah, so just a love for nature and being proudly South African, and then looking at this tree and just going, wow, there's so much to this tree. So the first book I wrote was The Rumbling Rhino, and then when I started playing with words and writing, I was like, wow, I'm going to write a book based around the central element being this baobab tree. And it's known as the tree of life, and I just love that because, we need to live life to the full. And why is it such an attraction when people come from overseas? And it's not just for people from overseas, it's also for us too. And what is so special about this tree, and what is so different about the tree?
Yeah.
So I love researching before writing a story, gaining as many facts and as much information as possible, and then weaving it into something fun.
Yeah, I love that, and I couldn't help but notice the mention of the ants in the book.
Yeah.
So now I've got the
Now you've got a
backstory for
backstory.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but notice that, metaphorically speaking, I felt like to tie that in with the Learn project, I couldn't help but feel like the baobab is like representative of like the Learn project or education, in that there's this tree of significance that can empower so many different, in this instance, animals and creatures, great and small, from different walks of life that have different strengths and weaknesses, and yet they all come to this tree in some way or form to be able to better their lives. And I feel like that's very much what's happening at Learn as well. You've got a wide variety of kids, some are very, very young, others heading more towards high school.
Wow.
And they're coming to this proverbial baobab tree / library, and they're making the most of that opportunity. So I don't know if that was something deliberate, or I'm just coming up with mumbo jumbo.
I like what you've taken out of it. It definitely wasn't intentional that's what I was thinking of when I was writing it, but perhaps subconsciously it relates to my life story. And in any person's life, there's going to be storms, there's going to be things that come to rock the boat, to say it like that. And what are you planted on? What are you grounded? What are you rooted in? How deep are your roots?
Yeah.
Is it the first bit of wind that's going to rip it up and you're going to be crushed, or are you deep enough? What are you surrounded with?
Yes.
I always say the people you surround yourself with are critical to the direction you go. So who are you surrounding yourself with? Conversations, time, life. And so having this tree of life, the baobab tree, the one part with the elephants, it says, let me get it right. The roots go deep, there's lots of shade. It's sturdy enough for the elephant parade.
Yes.
So it talks about how these roots go deep, and it's strong enough to withstand even an elephant trying to, uproot it. So, yeah.
I love that. And those messages, I don't think we can fully understand that symbolism and that reference and how that actually affects the way a child might think. It's such a great meeting point to give your child a life lesson.
Yes.
To say, remember in the book Under the Baobab, remember that baobab tree with the roots, and it's deep and it can't be moved.
Thank you.
So there's that middle ground where you can meet your kids and reference certain parts of it. And then I think that's what makes a good children's book.
Thank you. I definitely, that was part of the purpose, was it's not just I'm writing a fun story for, this sounds good and this rhymes with that. I think it's very challenging writing a rhyme-based children's book, because your words have to have meaning, and it can't just be because it rhymes that it's going to fit there.
Yeah.
So it has to link to the purpose the whole time. So that's been something that I love a challenge, and that was a challenge for me. But also each animal had such a different need, and we are all so different in this world, and how at the end it says, then under the Baobab tree, many animals arrived, thinking this is a tree where we could all survive. And each one explains why they think they could survive there. And at the end, they realize that it's big enough for them to live in harmony together.
Yeah.
So there are definitely life lessons that you could have great conversations with your children with.
I love how you tied that in at the end there. So now you've got exciting things happening in the future. Tell me, you've got some more books coming out.
Yes.
Okay.
So my next 2 children's books are with Penguin Books again. They've been absolutely amazing, and I'm just eternally grateful to them for backing my writing and believing in me and making them happen, because I suppose that's also it. You know, you can sit there and you can do what you love and you can write, or you can dream of a podcast, but unless you have the team that's going to help you get there, it's hard to do things alone.
Yeah.
So I've written 2 more children's books that are coming soon. They've just arrived, and the first samples, and they'll be on shelves in March. So I've had confirmation that they'll be on shelves across SA and Amazon for international. So
Fantastic.
It's going to be very exciting. Yeah.
Are you allowed to disclose the titles of the book yet?
Am I allowed to keep it a surprise?
You can keep it a surprise.
But I can give some clues.
Okay, so what? Give me some clues.
Okay, so they are both in line with wildlife again.
Okay.
Both set in South Africa. And the one book is, we hear a lot about the Big Five, and I love the Big Five, but it's actually based off, I can share this part. This is the first time I'm sharing it, actually.
Nice.
It feels natural just to talk about this now. So it's based off myself and my 3 children, and their very first African safari adventure. And this little boy, who's actually my little boy, Max, and he notices things that everyone else just drives past. And it's about noticing differences and noticing things and bringing out the golden in what's out there.
Wonderful.
So he notices some animals that many people just drive past, and it highlights why those animals are so important and why they're so different and why they deserve a special mention. So that's the one book. And the other book is super exciting. I can give a little clue in that we have the Olympic Games coming up this year.
Yes.
And something to do with animals, something to do with the Olympics.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, where should people go and look to find, first of all, the 2 books, the wonderful books you've written already, and if they want to keep an eye out for when the next 2 are coming out?
Okay, so the existing books are in bookstores across South Africa. So to name a few: Exclusive Books, Wordsworth Books, Bargain Books, Loot, Take a Lot. They're online. Most bookstores do have them. And then local suppliers, we've got beautiful coffee shops locally, like Humble Coffee, that supply my books. Encourage Coffee in Durban North, La Belvie in Durban North. There's a few places that do stock them. Nifty Kids is an online store. They also stock the books. So there are a number of ways to get hold of the books. And people can always DM me if they want a special message written inside as a gift or a baby shower present. Or there's been a few people who have wanted personalized messages for their kids. And then the new books will also be through all leading bookstores across our country, and hopefully on Amazon soon.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, I'll attach all those links in the show notes so people can find it there.
Thank
but
you.
Roselynne, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Well done on the work you're doing. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much, and thank you for providing a platform like this podcast where we get to share and hear stories.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Not so fast. It's a new year, which means it's a new outro. And let me level with you. It is such a cool feeling when I see that Spotify subscribers number increase on the weekly, when I see the number of people listening to the episodes going up. And it really makes a huge difference. Have you ever done something and you feel so good when you get rewarded by some positive feedback and you really feel like you're making a difference? That's what it means to me, and that's how I feel. And it goes a long way if you like the show, share it and subscribe it. Thank you humbly, and I'll see you next week.